You gotta give me one thing. I'm a scary judge of talent.
Adolphus Washington back-to-back plays.
The Detroit Pistons select Luke Kennard from Duke University.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Triple Double Podcast. We have a special post-OHSBCA, if I got that right, showcase episode where we're going to have Zach Fleer, multiple time guests from 270 Hoops coming on, and we're going to be talking about that OHSBCA showcase, which, if anyone doesn't know, with the new NCAA recruiting calendar, was the event hosted by the Ohio High School Coaches Association, invite-only showcase camp where players were able to play in front of a lot of Division I college coaches. So, Zach, what's going on, man?
I'm doing pretty good, man. That event Saturday was great, although there was somebody missing. There were some players missing, but who was the guy that we didn't see there, Corey?
So the question college coaches kept asking me is, there's all these young guys in 270 hoop shirts, all these Columbus guys, but the big beard wasn't there. Morrow wasn't there. I don't know if he was watching Amani Bates, he's watching Bronny Jr., some other NBA player's son. I mean, you tell me, Flair, where was Morrow at?
There was no sons of NBA players at the Ohio event, so it probably wasn't good enough for him now. You know, he's taking pictures with Scottie Pippen. You know, it's just watching Logan dunk him. It's just not enough for Morrow these days.
It's not enough. But you thought that he actually might be practicing something.
Yeah, actually, I do. There's been rumors of a big matchup coming up, and I'm honestly disappointed it hasn't happened yet. I've offered to, drive all the way down to Cincinnati. I'll bring my Xbox. I'll bring my controllers. I'll even bring the game, and I want to see Morrow and Tuck finally match up in NCAA Football 14. I'll even live stream it. I'll put it on my Twitter for free. I'm not going to charge anything. I want to see that matchup. It feels like Morrow's kind of ducking him a little bit.
Just hasn't worked out yet. I mean, I think that, it's going to happen, and he'll probably get me in Madden. But when it comes to NCAA, I just don't think Tuck has it. I really don't. Depends on the year. If we go 14, I think I
used to kick your ass in high school in that game, so I hope you'd be able to beat him.
That's true. You with Carlos Dunlap in NCAA 10 was pretty much unstoppable.
That's right.
So, well, Morrow was lacking, but no, the rest of the camp was pretty good, Flair. But before we get into the camp, I want to talk about this. So we mentioned it with Tuck when we had him on the podcast last week. You guys have expanded. You guys are doing 275 hoops. So tell us a little bit about what happened there.
Yeah, so I always in the back of my mind thought about expanding our brand and, offering near identical sites in different parts of the state, because I do have a background, covering the state of Ohio back when you and I, helped launch Prep Hoops Ohio back in 2014, and I've kind of had an itching to go back to that, and the opportunity presented itself. Really, in March I was thinking about expanding, so I went and did some background work ahead of, even before I thought about building a new site, just to secure the domain name and the Twitter name, stuff like that. And then really about early May, Brett Favaccio is now the lead writer for 275 Hoops, reached out to me and was like, are you looking to bring 270 down here? Because if so, I want to lead it. And I was like, all right, let's do it. I've actually been thinking about that, and really in the course of about 2 to 3 weeks, we kind of put it all together, and I showed him the ropes, and then obviously you gave us some help as far as player rankings and guys to look out for, and those guys have hit the ground running. Brett and his friend Jake Welch, who they both went to high school together. I've known Jake and Brett for probably 5 or 6 years now. Those guys have hit the ground running. They're working hard, and really their passion and just desire to cover the game and provide exposure is a great fit for what we've done. And I think it's going to be a success down there. I'm really excited for those guys, and I think Cincinnati, especially the community, seemed to really embrace them and welcome them in, which has been good for us. And it's been a good springboard, and I think getting about 6 months of preparation before the high school season starts to be good for those guys.
We're definitely happy to have him down here, and a lot of the high school coaches are excited. I think one thing that's really going to be nice is having the video aspect that you guys have already added just on social media. And with different things like with Jason and Darren Scarborough and Ty Kish in Columbus, with Third Coast Hoops and whatever else in Northeast Ohio. Southwest Ohio has never had much in terms of video guys, and that aspect of it is really, really going to be embraced by the city early on. So I'm excited to have those guys, and they definitely seem like they're ready to work and to get after it and try and meet everybody. And I've been impressed in talking to them with how much they already know in a short time frame.
Yeah, it's been great, and with Morrow living in Covington, it's a natural fit. So he can go to some midweek games and then get up to Columbus on the weekends. So I think it's going to work out, and it's a good time to be down there. When you got guys like Paul McMillan and Rayvon Griffith in the younger classes, those are national talents. So there's going to be plenty of guys to watch out for, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of when we first started here in Columbus. We were loaded with top 100 talent at that time. Not so much anymore, but that's a good springboard when you're, a young website trying to get started. If you have big time players that people want to know about, they're going to come to your site and they're going to stay. So I'm excited for them. I think it's going to work out.
So you guys are going to probably keep expanding, and next you're gonna have to land the infamous Roth and get Roth going in Northeast Ohio, right?
Well, I mean, if we want Tuck to stay on our side, I don't know if we want to hire Roth with what I saw on Twitter. I got a rash. Tuck really came after me back in like 2014. So it's kind of the initiation if you're a young guy in the media game, it feels like. But Roth is passionate. He gets out there and watches a lot of basketball. So I've talked to him a little bit. He's an OU. So if we ever want to start Route 33 hoops, that could be someone to reach out to if he can get excited enough to watch Southeast Ohio basketball.
Listen, if we're gonna do anything east of Columbus, the only guy that's allowed to run it is named Kurt Stubbs.
I didn't know if he leaves the city of Pickerington though. I mean he's
that's true.
That area code. So
that's true. So besides 275 hoops, you guys have some fall league stuff coming up. You maybe have some other events coming up. So before we get into the showcase, what do you guys have going on between now and when it gets to be high school practice season?
Yeah, so our busy event season's coming up. The first event we have is August 24th at Olentangy Orange High School. It's our second annual, the intro, and that is an event for any rising freshman in Central Ohio and really the surrounding areas that wants to come and play in front of us, play in front of our staff, and it's a great opportunity for us to really see all the rising freshmen in the area. Last year we had 96 kids signed up. We already have close to 70 now, and registration's only been open for about 3 weeks. So it's just a great opportunity for those kids to get seen, get on the radar early, and then for us, we have a big database of names to kind of remember and look at when the high school season starts. And this year especially, it was good because, when I went to a couple JV games before big varsity games, I recognized some of the guys playing in those games that were young, and it just gives us an advantage, as far as evaluating the talent. So that's coming up August 24th at Olentangy Orange High School, and then September 8th, our third annual fall league opens up. It's going to be bigger and better than ever. We'll still have our 8-team, 80-player invite-only league, which is the elite league. The vast majority of the top players in Central Ohio playing that. We've already got some big-time commitments from guys like C.J. Anthony, Jalen Solinger, and then even a player like T.J. Pugh from up in Shelby High School. He had a big showing at T.J. Petros' open run this past Sunday. That's a guy I'm really excited about, and it's going to be loaded once again there. And then we also have our open league, which is anyone in Central Ohio can sign up for. We'll have 20 teams this year, so we're anticipating around 200 kids in that division alone. And that's a really good division for guys that are young, coming up, or want to prove themselves that really aren't on our radar yet. Just from last year, we had the open division last year, and 15 kids that played in that division now got invites for our invite-only league this year. So it really works. It's kind of like a minor league system per se for guys that are still young and proving themselves. And, I tell kids, I'm like, look, if you don't get an invite, you can still play in front of us. We cover the event the same as we do the invite-only league and provide, exposure for those kids. There was a few kids just last year that played in it. One, Joey Thatcher from Olentangy Liberty, ended up starting in a state Final Four. So there's been big-time players in the open league as well. So I'm excited about that. That'll tip off September 8th at Groveport Madison High School. It's going to be a big-time league. A lot of momentum in the first 2 years, and I think year 3 will be even bigger.
And with Morrow at the helm along with you, it's never going to conflict with Ohio State football games.
That's correct. We play on Sundays on purpose.
Playing Sundays on purpose. All right, I like it. So, all right, well, definitely a lot of good stuff coming in the Central Ohio area in the fall or late summer here, less than 60 days away. So let's talk about this OHSBCA showcase. Again, like I said at the beginning, invite-only event run by the Ohio High School Coaches Association. Had good attendance of players. I know you guys did a report online. I did one. I saw a couple other ones here and there. Pretty good event. I thought it was very, very well organized. I thought the talent was solid. We'll talk a little bit about the selection process a little later on in this episode. But I thought the big thing that I noticed, Zach, was that our high school coaches in Ohio did a hell of a job in attracting a ton of Division I and non-Division I college coaches to the event.
Absolutely. I was really impressed with the amount of coaches I saw, the really wide variety as well, because it wasn't just Division I schools. There was probably every single Division II program and, a 250 mile radius that was there, and a lot of head coaches too. So, you saw head coaches from West Liberty, Lake Erie, Lake Memorial had someone up here, as they always do. And even the Division IIIs, there was NAIs there, and even NCCAA, small Christian division. Shout out to my guy Connor Hart from 270 Hoops, who's now a student assistant at Great Lakes Christian College. He was pissed that I didn't mention him on the last podcast, so that's what I'm doing right here. But, it was great. High majors, mid majors, low majors. It was really cool, and, coaches got a good evaluation, and then the kids were able to play in front of more college coaches than probably most of them are going to play in front of an AAU. Even the circuit guys, there was, I'd probably say, over 100 colleges that were there, watching and evaluating the talent. I think it was a great showcase, and it was definitely a unique event. I haven't really experienced anything like that from a statewide level.
It's definitely an event where the high school coaches can say, well, we are able to get the elite college programs in the gym for our kids to get exposure. You don't have to go outside of the high school system to get exposure. And one thing that I don't think we really want to talk about too much today, because no one knows the answer except for damn Condoleezza Rice, as to if it's going to happen next year, if it's going to be sanctioned for Division I teams. I mean, the showcase will happen next year, but will there be Division I teams there? We do not know the answer to that. But for this year, they did a really good job with that. So I tweeted that there were 40 different Division I programs. I think that number was probably even a little bit low. And like you said, a lot of other divisions. But very well organized event. The guys did a good job. From the Central Ohio level, who were some of the guys that you thought played real well?
We had around 17 players that were there. A couple kids went down with injuries. Von Cameron Davis and Sean Jones both. I was pretty salty for both of them, especially Von Cam. He went down like 5 minutes into the 5-on-5 games. But as far as rising players in that event, I was really impressed with Gardner Wallace from Pickerington Central, the rising junior. He's a kid that's state track champion in the 4x4. He's a standout in cross country. He plays football, so his endurance is really good. And there in the the afternoon when a lot of guys were wearing down, he was just racing past people. His motor, as an elite level, he was making shots and just making things happen. Just with his activity level, he just gets stuff done no matter what the setting is. I was really impressed with him. Another rising junior that I think's played really well this month is Desmond Watson from DeSales. 6'5", strong build, operates really well from the mid-range and in. He made a bunch of shots, plays really hard. He's starting to get some Division I interest, getting some letters from low and mid-major schools, and even West Virginia's reached out to him as well. And then C.J. Anthony, as far as the seniors are concerned, C.J. Anthony had a great showing. In the game I watched, he came right in off the bench and scored 10 points in about 2 minutes. He's added an in-between game. That was one thing that we had written about late in the high school season. It kind of seemed like his game offensively was, 3-point shot or layups at the rim. He's really worked on his pull-up jumper. He hit a couple mid-range shots in the game I saw. So if he's doing that, he's going to be really tough to stop, because at the high school level, there's really not another opposing point guard matchup that's as strong and physical as he is, and that's really what he uses to his advantage, and he kind of gets guys on his hip. And despite being, not overly explosive or quick, he's still able to do that with his physicality. So those three guys, more than anything, stick out to me. I think those were our top three performers. And, if Von Cameron Davis was able to be healthy, I think he would have been right there as well.
I like the Garner Wallace pick. I thought he was great as well. I had watched him a week or two before that at Northern Kentucky's camp, and Pickerington Central was down some bodies, and he was by far their best player in that game that I watched against Cincinnati Woodward. Really good, close game. And then I think the thing with Garner, like you said, is activity level, his energy level. But the other thing about him is he's more skilled than people think, and he's gotten that skill set better and better with time. And like you said, he made a couple shots, he handled the ball better, and when he adds that versatility, he's going to be a really good player. Speaking of the Pickerington schools, though, one kid who's no longer there but is a former Pickerington attendee is Josiah Fulcher from Lima Senior. Did you get to see him at all?
Yeah, I did. Josiah has been really impressive. I saw him in May, and then I was able to see him again on Saturday. He made a bunch of shots. He was scoring at the rim a lot. But the one thing that really stuck out to me, and Connor Harr is actually the one that saw this game, he matched up against DJ Moore from Worthington Christian. And Connor told me that Josiah just completely shut DJ down in that game. And DJ is one of the elite offensive players in our area. So if Josiah was able to do that defensively and still do what he did offensively, I think that's really impressive for him. Since he's gone to Lima Senior, I think it's been a good move for him. He went there and he became like the go-to guy. He's playing with C2K. He's kind of the go-to guy there as well. His attitude has seemed to change. His motor has been improved from what I saw at Pickerington Central, and he's just getting stuff done. I think if he was still in Columbus and he was playing at this level, he'd probably be our top 2020 prospect based off what I've seen lately. He's just got so much versatility and really is a two-way player that his motor and just toughness has been really impressive the last couple of times I've seen him. I think a lot of that you got to give credit to Quincy Simpson. He's kind of brought that out in him. And, Quincy, when he's coached guards, those guys have been Bulldogs most times, and I think moving to Lima has been good for him as far as that's concerned.
I totally agree with his mindset, and I'll tell you, I unfortunately didn't get to see him in the spring with C2K. I'm going to see him here in the next week, hopefully, at the Under Armour Finals. But with C2K, I saw that he got a lot of new offers coming in, and I don't want to say I was surprised because he's always been a good player, but I thought he was kind of right in the mix of all the shooting guards and the top shooting guards in Ohio, and maybe there wasn't a lot of separation, but he certainly looked separated on Saturday at Capitol, and you say his motor was great. You look at the top performers you mentioned C.J. Anthony, Garner Wallace, Josiah Fulcher. Those are three kids who have A-plus motors, and that's one of the big things that made him stick out, and especially in such a short event. It's like a 5-6 hour event. If you can keep that motor running throughout that whole time, and college coaches are going to notice that. One other Central Ohio kid that I had on my list, Zach, that I thought you could touch on is a country kid in A.J. Clayton. So, being that they live in the city of Columbus, you got Sean Jones, you got DJ Moore is getting a lot of hype in that class, and those kids are really good players, really fun to watch guards. But A.J. Clayton from Philo High School might be the best rising sophomore in that area, and I thought he was just tremendous all spring with Ohio Red, and he was tremendous on Saturday playing against a lot of kids at least one grade, if not 2 grades older than him.
Yeah, no, AJ was really good, and what stuck out to me was how comfortable he was on the perimeter. I'd really only seen him in kind of a back-to-the-basket type role, especially about from City in our intro event last year. He showed the ability to handle the ball out there. He made a bunch of shots out there. I think that's a kid that's probably going to be able to transition into a 3-4 type role if he keeps improving at that clip. And at his size at 6'6", 6'7", he's going to be really dangerous. It's kind of funny because the first time I heard that name was, I think it was the summer of 2017, and Jason Kemp, who was at Ohio University now at William & Mary, gave me a call, and he's like, Zach, there's this 6'5" kid at our youth camp. He's going into 8th grade. He is absolutely killing these kids. He's like, I'll get you a name for him. He's like, I'm not trying to overhype him, but I feel like this kid could be a 4-star prospect if, he continues to do what I'm seeing right here. And that was A.J. Clayton, because Philo is only probably 35, 40 minutes from Athens. And, Coach Kemp has been pretty accurate with what he said then, because A.J. has just continued to improve, and at that size and that versatility and just what he's able to do out there, because he's a really good athlete too. That's one thing about him. He can rise up and, dunk on you, rebounds at a high level, finishes at the rim really well. And if he's making shots and handling the ball, he's going to be a really tough matchup. And in that 2020 class, I think he's by far the best big guy. And if he keeps improving it, like I said, I think he's going to have a chance to have his pick of colleges, at least in this region.
Absolutely. It's no surprise that he's already got an offer from Coach Bowles. Coach Bowles likes to offer a lot of guys at OU, but he still is one that's like, it's just an absolute no-brainer. I agree with everything you said. I agree that he's going to have a chance to be one of the top 5 2022s in Ohio if he already isn't. And one thing playing in that event on Saturday, like you said, he went right at the older kids, but his frame is still so physically raw. He still doesn't weigh a whole lot. When he adds that muscle, I mean, he's just going to be killing guys. So he's another one. That event catered to a lot of small town kids, which is great. And, people kept coming up to me, college coaches, saying, they should let you guys be in the scouting service, guys, have more of a say in the selection process. And I'm going to get to that right after this. But I honestly really like seeing kids like him, seeing like the kid Mitch Rafe-Snyder from, I hope I haven't said it right, I think it's Margaretta High School near Sandusky. Like, I'd never heard of that kid. I'd never heard of that damn school. And, got to see him, and he's one of the better 2021 kids in Ohio. So for me, I was like kind of happy that some kids that maybe we didn't know that their high school coaches really lobbied to get him in, got to play in the camp, and that's great exposure for some of those kids like, Clayton and Philo. You guys might go see him one time this year, Zach, because you guys get to a lot of games. But, in terms of college exposure during the high school season, based on geography, that kid's going to be limited. So this camp was great.
Absolutely. And I was sitting close to Bobby Huggins, and I didn't mean to eavesdrop on him, but he said something to the guy sitting next to him. He's like, I think stuff like this is going to give control back to the high school coaches and, not make it so lean towards the AAU coaches. He didn't say that verbatim, but he said something like that. And I agree with him. That's great for, again, small town kids. High school coaches have an impact and a role. And for us, we can't see everyone. We don't know everyone. So the high school coaches have a bigger role in that. And then guys like Rafe Snyder that, may not have been on the bigger radar than that ever again. He's able to get that opportunity. So I really like the design of the event. It was well run, and the high school coaches being there just made it a quality event. I think everyone really benefited.
Well, let's look at let's look at this, Zach. Let's look at this. If you're Eric Kruger, if you're Coach Bates, if you're head coach of one of the Pickerington high schools, if you're Carl Kramer at Cincinnati Moeller, you're Sonny Johnson at Garfield Heights, whatever, you're always going to have some say-so because you're always going to have a lot of talent and you're in a big city. And if Coach Huggins at West Virginia is recruiting one of your kids, you're going to have some involvement. Where you might not see that happen is a kid like a Rafe Snyder, is a kid like AJ Clayton, where because of the geography of their high school, the size of their enrollment, the high school coach might get cut out because it's going to be an AAU-based recruitment. That's where they're going to see the kids. So it's not just the high school coaches that are getting the power back. It is the small-town high school coaches. And, you can lobby on whatever side of the argument you feel like. Everybody's going to have their own opinion. But from a OHSBCA, the Ohio High School Basketball Coaches Association, the guys putting on the event, that's exactly what they wanted to happen. And that certainly was a major theme on Saturday.
Absolutely. I was really blown away with it. Just to see that amount of college coaches, that amount of kids, and just the diversity of the kids. There was even a couple other Central Ohio kids, like a Callie Davis from Afrocentric, who is receiving limited recruitment. I think like Shawnee State's like the only school that's on him right now. He played really well. He was one of the better guards there, and he opened a lot of eyes to the college coaches. I got a few texts and a few calls from some people asking about him. So even a guy like that who was really under-recruited despite being from, a well-known school in a bigger area, it just helps out guys like that.
But a smaller enrollment high school.
Exactly. I mean, they're Division III, and despite him playing in a state final and playing on some really good teams at Afrocentric, people still really didn't know about him, and that was a perfect event. I know Steve Wright. I think Steve Wright was his coach in the 5-on-5 games, and he had even tweeted that he had never heard of the kid prior to Saturday, but he was really blown away with just the way he plays the game and the type of leader he is. So I think for a kid like Callie, that's going to be really big for him going forward.
So let's talk about then kids like that getting the invite. We said we were going to go over the invite process. So first I want to give a disclaimer. I am not 100% sure I'm going to get all this right. This is based on my understanding and my limited brain power of how this thing worked. So my understanding is this. They've had this event forever. I'm going to say at least a decade. And every year when they do the district voting for district player or whatever, the high school coaches are able to nominate guys that they think should compete in this event. Now, typically, when it's not an NCAA Division I recruiting period, the top kids may or may not be interested in the event, and that has an influence on who attends and the the college coaches that attend in the non-Division ones. But this year with the calendar, it obviously worked out that most of the top kids who were invited attended. So my understanding of how kids were invited is this. Number one, their high school coach had to be a member of the Ohio High School Coaches Association. If they were not, the kid was not invited. The OHSBCA is the one putting the event on. Number two, besides being a member, they had to be nominated by their high school coach. And then from there, we don't really know. I think they have been very transparent, but I'll be honest, on my end, I don't know, which is if they did a vote, if there was a point system, if they consulted with some people. I did speak at one point with somebody in April, maybe even early May, I forget the exact timing, of, hey, what do you think about these 10 or 15 kids from a high school coach who's in the association? So I don't really know how that works, but is that kind of your understanding of how these selections went out?
Yeah, that's what I was told, everything you just said. And I think with an event like that, it's going to put the onus on high school coaches. If they want their kids to be seen, they're going to have to do kind of the work behind the scenes as far as nominating them and making sure they're a part of the association. Because if not, if you have a really good player, you're only hurting the kid if you're not doing that and stepping out for him. So I think this will show, especially if, high school coaches aren't pulling their weight as far as helping their kids get noticed. This is an event that's going to showcase that. If there's, a really good player that didn't even receive an invitation, we're going to know about that more than, if not, before these changes are made.
I know of at least two kids who were unable to attend, who were on the sheet, but were unable to, the roster sheet for the event, but were unable to attend because of transfer and enrollment issues as well, too. So that also played a factor. Now, there were at least two other kids who transferred within the last 60 days, certainly since the high school season ended, who were able to participate. So it didn't affect all kids, but it did affect some kids. And one thing I want to say about it is, it's never going to be perfect in terms of player selection. There's always going to be some sort of bias. There's always going to be some type of political bias when you get that many high school coaches in its association. It is what it is. It's not going to be perfect. It's just like, the March Madness, tournament bracket selection. Everybody's always going to have a gripe to some extent. I don't think they did a good job. I don't think they did a bad job at all. The one gripe that I heard down my way from inner city Cincinnati and Dayton coaches were that there was a complete lack of City League kids from Cincinnati and from Dayton. I don't know if that's a nomination issue. I don't know if it's a coach association issue. I don't know if they nominated all those kids and they didn't get in. It could be any of those factors, but that's one thing I certainly heard, and I've seen a lot of it on Twitter, and hopefully, the OHSBCA did get on Twitter and really try and clarify the process. So this was a one-year trial run, being the changes to the NCAA Division I recruiting calendar were not very transparent at all from Condoleezza Rice and her committee. So all that being said, I think we did the best we could. There were some kids that got screwed, as there's always going to be, and that sucks. But those were the main criticisms I heard, Zach.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even Columbus, there was only a handful of City League kids. I know Afrocentric had a kid there. Walnut Ridge had two. And then I don't think another school. Columbus South didn't have anybody there. Beechcroft.
I noticed that with South.
Northland had nobody there. So, I'm not sure where that, where the fault lies there. But I would like to see those schools get, a better representation next year. But I think we have to know. It would be cool to see if, the list of invitations and nominations were sent out, and if those were public, that we could take a look at those and see who was left off. But until then, it's kind of a guessing game.
It is. All the college coaches wanted to say, well, guys like us should be involved. And, not that we have all the answers, but I think you and me and TJ and, the Prep Hoops guys and everybody else would certainly welcome that, being that we see a lot of basketball. And I know those guys don't want to give us too much say-so because it's going to end up being, some of the small town kids might get forgotten. So there's got to be a balance there. But, I certainly would love to be involved in that in some capacity if, the opportunity presented itself. And, we had a great conversation, I thought, the other day. It was a Sunday or even Monday on, some changes that could happen at the event. I know, Chaz Wolf had some thoughts. And, one of his major thoughts is you've got all these high school coaches running the event. You've got really good high school coaches. A lot of them have won a lot of games. Let's even up the structure even more in terms of like putting in an offense, kind of playing through your personnel a little bit more. And one thought I had is, it's a Saturday event. Let's get the kids here Friday night with their team coaches, give them 60 minutes on the court with their team coaches, to put in an offense to make it even more structured and more like an actual basketball game when they play in front of the college coaches, which is what the NCAA is really going for and trying to give the high school coaches the say-so back.
I agree. I think that would, give the college coaches a better evaluation. It makes it more like a game instead of just showcase open gym basketball. One thing I'd like to see next year is with some of the shooting drills they've done, I think they can make it a little more competitive and just, up the intensity a little bit. Because some kids kind of relax through those skill drills and don't go as hard as they probably should. So I think if they can find ways to make it more competitive, you get an even better showcase and kids would even have an even better shot to, show what they can do as far as competing and, making shots. So that's one suggestion I had in mind after I was watching the skill session.
Completely agree. And my whole thought on the skill sessions, I think, are great. I'm a proponent of we don't want to just do 5-on-5 all day, especially when it's a camp setting and frankly, no one cares who wins the game. It actually took me a long time. I literally didn't even realize they were keeping score. I knew that the clock was running. So when that happens, you're going to have some bad games at times, and that's unavoidable. The stations I like stuff like 3-on-3 pick and roll, 4-on-3, 3-on-2 transition, competitive rebounding. If it's shooting, like you said, make it competitive, whether it's, to beat a certain goal number or to beat the guy next to you, but make the stations competitive. And then it just gives the college coach maybe a little bit more evaluating information on intangibles of a kid. And no, I definitely think that's the way to go. But you've got the great high school coaches in there, guys who I know are voted on by their peers. Let's put them to use. They certainly have the ability, and I'm sure they would embrace the opportunity.
I agree. I think it's obviously their first year doing it at that capacity, so it's not going to be perfect, but I think they're off to a good start. And if some of the suggestions we have, if a few of those get put in place next year, I think it's going to be even better. And hopefully we can really nail down the invitation process so we can get the absolute best kids there and also make sure that, those small town hidden gems get a chance to shine as well.
One thing I did see that the association account tweeted I think it was hidden in a thread with a conversation which a lot of people were tagging me in regarding the selection process, was that they're considering next year adding a few spaces that they're going to reserve for the month of May and base those off of anybody that stands out that really picks up a couple offers in April. So I thought that was neat. But all in all, I think we hit everything regarding the showcase. We've harped on it. It was a good event. When I heard about numbers in Michigan and I heard about numbers in Indiana in terms of Division I quality prospects and in terms of amount of college coaches, I thought our numbers correlated pretty well. So if we're competing with those two states, I think that's excellent news for us. And you said the amount of head coaches was great. So before we let you go, Zach, I want to talk about one more thing, and I forgot to mention it to you, but I'm sure you'll remember it when we're going over what we're going to talk about today, which was NBA draft just happened. And the night that the draft happened, Jaxson Hayes got drafted, and you sent out a tweet and you told me that you kind of got a lot of backlash for that tweet. So I was hoping you could kind of just share that situation and what's happened since in the conversation there.
Yeah, so I put out a tweet about him and his process. Really, for those that aren't familiar, Jaxson Hayes, Cincinnati Moeller, came into high school at 5'11", 6 foot, came off the bench on the freshman team, came off the bench on JV as a sophomore, came off the bench on varsity as a junior, and didn't start his first game until his senior year. And the last part of that tweet, I'd said, Jaxson Hayes did all this. He was just picked 8th in the draft, but there's kids that are transferring as freshmen because they didn't start or play varsity. And really the point of that tweet was to show that, being patient, waiting your turn, working hard is still a viable avenue to success. It seems like a lot of people, it's a microwave society. It's instant gratification. They want everything to happen to them right now, right when they want it. And I wanted to prove a point that for kids like that, you can still go in the lottery. You can still go Division I, go Division II, whatever, even if it doesn't happen for you until you're a junior or senior. And I had a lot of people that were like, well, he was a Moeller and he grew a foot and he did this and he did that, and people should be able to transfer whenever they want. And they kind of really took what I was saying out of context. It was the biggest tweet I've ever had. It had over 1,000 retweets, 5,000 likes. I didn't expect it to blow up the way it did, and it reached a lot of people. But there was like a big percentage of people that were kind of, saying that I was demonizing transfers and that, if coaches can do whatever they want, players should too. And I think they were assuming I was talking about college basketball, which I wasn't. I think at the high school level, I do agree that parents and kids should be able to make a move whenever they want. However, the transfer cycle has reached a point where you're seeing kids that are going to 3 schools in 3 years, that are at really good programs that don't want to wait their turn, and they end up going somewhere else, and it doesn't always work out for them. I think people often overlook the academic aspect of that. When you're uprooting your kid and he's going to 3 different schools in 3 years, a lot of kids suffer academically, and your transcript really gets messed up when you're having to go to different classes and you're not getting complete grades and things of that nature. So, because we even saw in Columbus, with the new OHSA transfer rules, there was probably 4 or 5 transfers where kids literally left their high school teams during the season and went somewhere else and sat the second half of the year. You're getting incomplete grades when you do that, and your transfer can kind of be affected negatively. So that's one thing I consider that not everyone looks at. So that goes back to transfer culture. And a ton of high school coaches liked that tweet. They retweeted it. They told people to look at it. So the high school coaches were in favor of it. Not everyone else was, though. So it was interesting to see some of the responses that I got.
Well, it's a polarizing topic, and sometimes I don't understand why, but it is. But, at the end of the day, there were 2 kids at the showcase, and both of these kids have generated a little bit of recruiting buzz. Both of them live in Cincinnati, and college coaches asked me about, who should we call about this kid? And I told them on both of them, I don't know where they're going to high school next year, Zach. It's July 2nd today, and there's not 100% certainty. They're looking at a couple different transfer options, this and that, and I don't think that's a good look. So I think the transfer process has to you have to look at all the variables, and with the Hayeses, they could have certainly looked elsewhere based on hey, we played JV as a sophomore, but they kind of saw the big picture, and the kid grew a foot. The kid was always going to be a late bloomer, as most big kids are, but I think that is a story that high school coaches are always going to, use as their, go-to story to keep in their back pocket as here's why you wait the process out. And, just recently there was a middle school kid. I met the family through something, and they say he's a pretty good player, and they told me they were going to a certain high school in Cincinnati, and they said, well, I'm not going to Moeller because Jaxson Hayes didn't start varsity until he was a senior year. And what I told him is, I said, I'm not telling you where to go to high school. I don't care, but that's not good logic. Good logic is to look at the whole situation. And, I think your tweet kind of makes that clear, but it certainly, gets interpreted a couple different ways by a couple different people. And, that's you're a social media guy. So I'm telling you, not telling you anything you don't know, but that's the nature of social media. Is there's a lot more telling you how stupid you are in your replies than telling you, hey, great tweet. That's just how it goes.
Exactly. A lot of that, and I think it also, what happened to people wanting to compete? Like, I don't understand. Why wouldn't you? If you had an opportunity to go to Moeller and you're a kid in Cincinnati, why wouldn't you do that? They've won, back-to-back state titles, almost 3 straight. Like, why wouldn't you want to be a part of a program like that? You're going to get better even if you do play JV as a freshman, sophomore. Look at a kid like Aiden Noyes. He's blowing up now. Everyone wants to know about him. Everyone wants to watch him. That was a kid that really got no type of varsity burn his first 2 years. It doesn't matter now. People see the type of player he is. I just don't know why you wouldn't want to be a part of a program like that. There was a kid, I'm not going to say who it was, but there was a kid in Columbus before this past season that his dad made him leave this school because he didn't start varsity as a freshman. That kid ends up going to another school, and then the school that he was at prior to transferring, that school made it to the state Final Four, played in the state championship game. That kid could have had a chance to be a part of that team, and then he would be in an even bigger expanded role now. But now he's at a lesser-known school in Columbus that's really not going to compete for anything. So you see kids like that, and you just wonder if he would have stuck it out at the previous school, what opportunities could he have had if they were just patient with the process.
I'll tell you, Zach, I'm very impressed that you're getting back into knowing all these Cincinnati kids, man. Like, I didn't think you were going to pull out the Aiden Noyes reference.
Aiden Noyes, Trey Robinson. It helps when 275 Hoops is down there, so I can kind of read their Twitter and see who's performing well. But I got a soft spot for Cincinnati. I used to be down there all the time, and I think Brett and those guys are going to do really well.
You got your chicken spot, right?
Yep. Yes, Island Fridays. If you need some Jamaican food, go to the UC campus. It's right down the block from Cincinnati Hughes High School. Always go there. They got great jerk chicken. Cincinnati's got some good food down there as well.
You get some jerk chicken and catch a Hughes versus Taft game. That's what we're going to do this winter, man. We'll definitely have to have you down this way.
I'd love to.
Definitely so. All right, man. Well, I won't take up any more of your time. Thank you, as always, for coming on, man. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Congratulations to you. Congratulations to Jason on what you guys are doing. And, hopefully we'll see more at some events. Hopefully we'll have a video game session here soon. And, I'll definitely talk to you guys soon, man.
Absolutely. I'll bring that Xbox down whenever Jason wants to play Tuck. We'll get that going, and we'll let the whole world see.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll get that set up. We'll get that.
There's Moro speaking part. So, all right, guys, that was Zach Fleer. For Jason Moro, I'm Corey Albertson. Thank you, guys. You just listened to the Triple Double Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by PlayEasy.com. For players, coaches, or casual athletes looking to book a sports facility, as well as owners and managers of sports facilities, PlayEasy.com is the new one-stop site for streamlined services. If you're looking for a place to practice, play, host your tournament, camp, or other, simply go to PlayEasy.com and create a booking request for your area. Your request will go out to surrounding facilities who will respond with their best offer. Once you receive the offer that best fits your needs, book the facility and you're ready to play. For facility owners and managers, PlayEasy puts the power in your hands to maximize the usage and visibility of your facility. Register your facility for free today at PlayEasy.com. PlayEasy.com is the booking site built by athletes, coaches, and facility managers, and is proud to help bring you the Triple Double Podcast. This podcast is also brought to you by Anago Cleaning Systems. Are you tired of struggling in a dead-end job? If so, Anago Cleaning Systems has what you're looking for, an opportunity to go into business for yourself, but not by yourself. With franchising opportunities available for as little as a $2,500 down payment, purchasing an Anago franchise has never been easier. Once you own your Anago franchise, you're licensed to clean commercial facilities all around the greater Cincinnati, Dayton, or Columbus areas with the support of Anago's sales, quality control, operational, and accounting staff. Call 513-332-0033 today for your opportunity to be your own boss and grow your own commercial cleaning company under the guidance of Anago's proven and successful system. Again, call 513-332-0033 to learn more. With Anago, your future starts today.